I talked to a U.S. soldier in Vietnam, old Vietnam, the U.S. war, 1973. It ends. What was it, 1955? It was an 18-year war. So there was an American soldier. This was actually Ken Burns. Ken Burns. I watched Vietnam. I watched his documentary, and he was like, "If you want to understand Vietnam better, talk to a Vietnam veteran. Talk to a Vietnam veteran." That's what he was telling me. So I went out and I did what Ken Burns said, and I went out and I talked to a Vietnam veteran, and I talked to two of them, and both of them had expressed basically no remorse. They didn't give a shit whatsoever, had no empathy, and in fact, because the war was lost, they were like, "Oh, I wish, I would have killed all of them, or, millions more, or something crazy like that." So a U.S. soldier in Vietnam, you wish you would have killed all of them? Because that's a terrible policy. I think Nixon is a little bit better than you stupid motherfucker. You want to sit there and try to tell me that wiping everybody out in Vietnam, China, Russia, Britain, France, Canada, you think everybody in the entire world is just going to watch us wipe out an entire nation state without doing a goddamn thing? It's terrible policy. It's not only, murderous, it's suicidal. It's suicidal. So, it's a good thing that Nixon and not that fucking soldier was in charge at the time, huh? Yellow fever. The French, they went back to Haiti to reinstitute slavery. This is Napoleon. So you had, Toussaint Louverture, Dessalines. They got freedom. And after they got freedom, guess what? Napoleon comes back in and he's going to re-enslave everybody. What the fuck, man? Talk about being on the wrong side of history. Napoleon was on the wrong... He wanted to reinstitute slavery. It's unthinkable, unfathomable, and Napoleon actually, with his code, built himself as a modern. And thank, God for the Haitian Revolution. There wouldn't be 13 American states, I want to say including Colorado today, if it wasn't for the Haitian Revolution. But how's reinstituting slavery modern? It's not revolutionary, it's not good, it's authoritarian, oppressive, criminal. It's terrible. It's awful. So it's just incredible that you had this general in Haiti. He was sitting there losing the war, and he says, "You know what? Why don't we just wipe out all the Haitians?" Because it was French colony, Spanish colony. I want to say English was there for a while. And they had imported slaves there, and so slavery had been instituted for a long time. And then the revolution had happened, and so the general that was there, Leclerc, he's dying of yellow fever, basically dying, all of his soldiers are getting killed or dying of yellow fever. They're all basically being wiped out, and he sees that all is lost and they're going to lose the war. He writes a letter to Napoleon and he says, "Why don't we wipe out all the Haitian people and bring in brand new slaves from Africa and reinstitute slavery, re-indoctrinate, reinstitute slavery?" That's Leclerc's fucking policy. I could understand him being the general. He wants to win the fucking war, but when it was clear that it wasn't going to be won, he should have changed course. And again, how would we as Americans like it if any country comes into Haiti, Dominican Republic, or Cuba? We didn't even like Cuba and Russia being friends. So if Russia came into Cuba and they just wiped out everybody in Cuba and then just started importing brand new slaves and reinstituted slavery, we should look at that as, not just a terrible authoritarian oppressive crime, but we should oppose it, and we should violently oppose it. Jordan Peterson points out Putin's Christianity. That Putin's a good old Christian, huh, Jordan Peterson? Jordan Peterson says a lot of fucked up shit. He's on the side, apparently, of Putin. He's, on Ukraine, he says, "Who gives a damn about the Ukraine?" Yeah, well, fuck you. Who gives a damn about you, Jordan Peterson? I give a damn about the Ukraine. Here's some Jordan Peterson.
The moral decadence of the West, and that he speaks in philosophical and theological terms to a degree unthinkable in a Western leader, all of whom tend towards a condescension in such matters, that has reached its apotheosis in Canada's Justin Trudeau, New Zealand's Jacinda Ardern, and U.S. Vice President Kamala Harris. He also collaborates in his thinking with a genuine philosopher, Alexander Dugin. You can say or think what you want about Dugin as a philosopher, but the fact remains that such thinking...
I don't think about Dugin as a philosopher, you dirty, rotten son of a bitch. You dirty, rotten fucking pile of shit. So he points out Putin's Christianity. He's a good, just like Jesus. What would Jesus do? Kill a bunch of Ukrainians in order to steal their land and resources? Of course. Of course. Fucking what a great Christian. Jordan Peterson on your... Who gives a damn about Ukraine? Who gives a damn about Jordan Peterson? Who gives a damn about Canada? Motherfucker, I give a damn about the Ukraine. The Ukraine, that's the Yalta Conference. Ukraine's the biggest country in Europe. That's Europe. The Ukraine, that's 44 million souls. It's Khrushchev and Yalta Conference. It's the domesticated horse. It's the gas lamp, and it's an early constitution. It's Mila Kunis and Joseph Conrad. It's the heart of darkness. It's the apocalypse now. It's oil by the Caspian Sea. It's oil pipelines. Going through it's 44 million souls. It's a border country. It's an important, the passageway, the gateway to the east. Who gives a damn about the Ukraine? Who gives a damn about, do you know who has less people than Ukraine? Canada. Canada only has 37 million people. The Ukraine has 44 million people. How you going to piff 44 million souls? And the fucking Canucks, they can't even get free from the Queen. You royalist Canuck, fuck you. Jesus Christ, who gives a damn about Jordan Peterson? He piffed. Goddamn 44 million people. Okay, well, piff, fucking Canada. There's more people in the Ukraine than in California, so that's a lot of motherfucking people. Who gives a damn about Canada? Right? Well, fuck them. Who gives a shit? Canada's smaller than the Ukraine, so in terms of utilitarianism, Ukraine is more important than Canada. There's more people there. If the U.S. just wanted to bomb Canada, I guess Jordan Peterson would be all right with that, right? Just bomb Canada for the moral decadence that Canada, that Virginia Charter said all the Americas was ours. Go back, check it out. That royal, you royalist motherfucker, you like the Virginia Charter said everything, to the west of the coast was ours. So therefore, we should be allowed to bomb the fuck out of Canada because, fuck them and fuck you too. And we're, might is right. And I can't stand the rationalization that follows violence and terrorism and mass murder. Injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. Is it not? Injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. Sure, it's an idiom. It's a great idiom, but it's a philosophy. It should be your practice in philosophy. I mean, my God, it pisses me off to hear that you were criminalized. Somebody did something wrong to you. I don't like that. Why? Because injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. There was that woman in Saudi Arabia. She got hung for some crazy shit. What happened with her? Saudi Arabia, woman hung. It was a while ago. Connection's interrupted. Okay, so we'll come back to it. But woman is hung for some tiny little thing. It's bullshit. It pisses me off. And, I don't know the woman, and I don't know how much effect her being hung has on me. But injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. It's fucking bullshit that somebody would do something like that. And so fuck an evil motherfucker anywhere and everywhere. So now Jordan Peterson, he is saying that maybe Putin is afraid of the decadent West. And Russia is the West. So, are they contributing to the decadence? And what the fuck, Jordan? What the fuck? Let's listen to some more.
He has exercised a deep influence on Putin and Russia. Putin regards the current West as decadent to the point of absolute untrustworthiness, particularly on the cultural and religious front. He is driven by economic and political necessity to trade with us and us with him so that Russia can be supplied by much needed hard Western currency and Europe in particular with fossil fuel. But Putin constantly tells his people that he sees us falling far too far under the sway of ideas very similar to those that produced the revolutionary frenzy of the communist movement, and detailed so presciently by Dostoevsky in The Devils, and analyzed for their catastrophic consequence so carefully by Solzhenitsyn. And whether he believes this or not, and I believe he does, he is certainly able and willing to use the story of our degeneration to make his people wary.
How do you know what he's thinking there, Jordan Peterson? You don't know what he's thinking. So I actually like Jordan Peterson for several reasons. I'm going to list them. Like Karate Kid, he's like, you got to be strong not to go bullying others, but basically to stop the bullies, right? If something or somebody's causing you great mental pain, let it go. People are traumatized by evil, not by sadness as much. Some people mock him for crying, but that just means he cares. And you know what? Thinking of the non-existent, where's the virtue? Where's the virtue in our society? He's super informed. He's been reading all these reports and studies for years. He's ahead of the curve for, most people. He talks about the Pareto principle, how essentially, a small percentage of the people are the creators and then everybody else is just following the creators. He also talks about aiming for the ideal. I like his talking about the virtue. The Enlightenment talked about virtue. I don't hear Americans talk about virtue very much. Jordan Peterson talks about virtue. Montesquieu had said, without virtue, the republic dies. So, do we have virtue in America? Is our republic going to die? Is there a moral degeneracy? So when folks mock Jordan Peterson, I feel like they, kind of are talking to the people that follow him. But I feel like Jordan Peterson, I like him because, for many reasons, but I don't follow him. He's not my leader. I don't worship him. I like listening to him most of the time. I couldn't stand his position on, the Ukraine and who gives a damn about the Ukraine. Fuck you. But really, when I needed some advice, Jordan Peterson helped me a bunch. So actually, Jordan Peterson is my therapist, whether he knows it or not. I don't care about his views on Ukraine. It pissed me off. It seems as though he doesn't seem to understand empathy or justice or righteousness or anything. Injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. That's why Russia's invasion of Ukraine matters. If your neighbors are being, raped and murdered by a gang of thieves, you could just stand there and close your eyes and pretend like it doesn't happen. You'll have to join their gang, be a part of them, because if you don't stand up to it, then you're saying that those people, you got to have the presence of justice. It's not, we don't get peace through the absence of conflict, but through the presence of justice. So he doesn't believe in justice. Jordan Peterson's talking about virtue, but he doesn't have morals or virtues. Is he at least following the law? Because he's talking about virtues, but justice isn't a virtue that Jordan Peterson believes in. Now he's being a Chicken Little. He's saying 1,000 years of darkness. He's going all goddamn Chuck Norris on us. November 2022, everything collapses. Mass migration of desperate peoples all over. That's in 5 months. So what is the moral degeneration that Jordan Peterson is talking about? Well, he's going to talk about the nomination and confirmation of Kenji Jackson. He's saying that was moral degeneration. The crime, the poverty, the homelessness. He didn't give a shit about that. It was the nomination. It was a Supreme Court, a Supreme Court justice nomination. And well, let's listen to him explain it.
And to convince them of the necessity of his leadership and to unite them in supporting his actions in Ukraine. And something akin to this can be said of the attraction that Hungarian Prime Minister Viktor Orban holds for the Hungarians and the Polish president for the Poles. Le Pen makes a similar appeal in France. And are we degenerate in a profoundly threatening manner? I think the answer to that may well be yes. The idea that we are ensconced in a culture war has become a rhetorical commonplace. How serious is that war? Is it serious enough to increase the probability that Russia, say, will be motivated to invade and potentially incapacitate Ukraine merely to keep the pathological West out of that country, which is a key part of the historically Russian sphere of influence?
That's an interesting rhetorical question there, Jordan Peterson. So he's asking a question: is America morally degenerate? Is that why Putin invaded the Ukraine? Because of America's moral degeneration? Go ahead. Not the homelessness or the crime or the poverty or the, police brutality. None of that. Just what is an example, Jordan Peterson, of America's degeneracy?
To answer that question, I'll turn to the analysis of a recent sequence of significant events in the U.S., with broader ramifications for the development of political thought in the West as such. When the Biden administration began the process of identifying a new Supreme Court justice, a singular message was initially trumpeted. It is time for a black woman to take her place in the highest tribunal in the land. I thought this was a terrible strategic error.
Okay, that's interesting. He actually ends this speech off talking about tar baby. I didn't like the way he just said black there. His tone was all wrong when he said black. He says this tar baby just, it means it's a problem that's, stuck in tar. But it also, it's, tar is black. So there's some racial connotation there. So Jordan Peterson's, he's going to point out the nomination confirmation of Kenji Jackson was a moral degeneration. Why? Because it was an affirmative action. They said we need a black female. We need a black female, African American, a black power female, a nice, strong, original, so, superior genetically. And, okay, so our degeneration is affirmative action? I don't think so. That's bullshit. That's a good way to have, a corrective measure for the historical wrongs. There should be a limit to affirmative action, sure. But now that we, got our black female, Supreme Court justice, now we don't need to break that glass ceiling. Now we could just go for merit only. Or maybe we could get ourselves, a brown, trans cross-dresser. I don't want to piss Jordan Peterson off too much. But why? Why not? Because his stance on the Ukraine is absolutely wrong. Our degeneration is not affirmative action. We got ourselves a black, female justice, so now we could go for merit only. But to pretend that there hasn't been racism and that there's not institutional racism, to pretend that we're not a racist culture, and since we're a racist culture, in order to stop racism, it's not enough to just not be racist. You got to be actively anti-racist. We live in a racist culture. You got to be anti-racist. And so having some affirmative action, I think, is, fine and dandy. Having a limit to affirmative action, I think, is fine and dandy, too. So don't pretend like Supreme Court justices are picked solely by merit also. It's partisan. It always is. That's why they all lie about Roe v. Wade. Alito lied about Roe v. Wade. Kavanaugh and Clarence Thomas all lied about Roe v. Wade. These are motherfucking lying pieces of shit. The party picked them. And then, just like clockwork, all the, rank and file just fell in line. So it had nothing to do with picking the best person with the most merit and the most qualified. That had nothing to do with it. On the short list, maybe some people at the top were talking about that, but that's ultimately who's going to work well in front of the camera. Merrick Garland didn't do well. The camera did not love Merrick Garland. And what a terrible lesson. Supreme Court justices, they're supposed to lie. That's how you become a Supreme Court justice. Well, you study hard, you go to college, you be a judge for a while, and then you lie. Straight to the American people, straight to all them goddamn Congress people. You lie and lie some more, you bullshit, and then once you're justice, you do whatever the hell you want to do. So if they're fucking goddamn, wicked motherfuckers who's sitting there doing corrupt goddamn shit, they're the leadership. They're the leadership. All right, let's listen to some more Peterson.
Speaking as someone who would rather see the Democrats sane than deluded, why not first announce the search for the most credible candidate and then report the discovery of the candidate with ethically fortuitous sex and genetic structure? Why wouldn't that sequence make the most sense? From within the Democrat fortress itself, the fact of qualification made primary and the secondary provenance that such qualification could be provided by someone who would also simultaneously serve as a beacon to the
simultaneously
and underprivileged. But no, sex and race were first, this begs the question, does qualification even matter?
Of course it does.
Now,
Kinsey was qualified.
technically speaking, announcing a priori restriction of the candidacy to women and black means the restriction of the potential.
In black. Did y'all hear that? In black.
50%.
Ugh. The tone is all wrong, Jordan Peterson. The heart of the black man is anger. The heart of the white man is fear. The tone, Jordan Peterson, this isn't a tar baby. Racism is a tar baby. Jesus Christ, you say black, it's your tone. It's your tone. It's all wrong. I'm just going to explain some other points that he makes and why. He says, we're not going to help Ukraine defend themselves. It's always right to help other people defend themselves. You got your neighbor is being raped and murdered by a gang of thieves. You ignored it. Well, now those people are dead, and now you just have criminals just sitting at your neighbor's house taking over. And how much longer until eventually you're attacked? So you can pretend all you want, but I feel that injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. You got to stand up, help your neighbors out, not just to help your neighbors, but to help the community. Is that the kind of community you want? Don't you know right versus wrong? And if you allow that shit to happen, you're going to train your mind to ignore injustices, and you'll live in a criminal society. You have to stand up. You have to stand up. So we're supposed to, instead, watch out for nuclear war, right? Who gives a shit about nuclear countries going around trying to take over other countries, right? We'll just let China, Pakistan, India, just let France and Israel and the United Kingdom take over any country they want because they got nuclear weapons. What can you do? They might wipe out the entire world. If they're that fucking unhinged, then we got to get those nuclear weapons. We got to get them. We got to stop that shit. We have to stop that shit right fucking now. So, also, don't help the Ukraine defend themselves, but if the Ukraine is victorious, don't go humiliating Putin. So basically, let Putin, the authoritarian motherfucker, take whatever piece of Ukraine that he wants, and if he happens to be victorious, because Ukraine could win, right? But he doesn't seem to say, let's help Ukraine. But if Russia, if the Ukraine happens to be, Russia's winning, but if the Ukraine is victorious, don't humiliate Putin. The Versailles Treaty, don't plant seeds for future transgressions. There was talk after World War II of just dismantling Germany. Why would you keep Germany as a nation state? Why would you prop it up? Why would you give it any kind of rules or anything? Just, disintegrate it. Chop it up into 10 different pieces. Make sure Germany as a nation, if they can't stop themselves from being Nazi motherfuckers, make sure that nation state never exists ever again. So perhaps we have a definitive, go ahead and take Russia over and divide Russia to the other countries of the world. Operation Anthill, Operation Mo Green, Operation Asteroid. Jordan Peterson goes on and on about Dostoevsky. Is that why you love motherfucking Russia so much? Putin in today's Russia is not Dostoevsky. Dostoevsky, I've read that mother. He's boring. He's terrible. He's supposedly a great literature, right? Great fucking novelist. I think he's a disgusting pervert. He's a socialist. He's a nationalist. Jordan Peterson should get rid of Dostoevsky. Get rid of Dostoevsky. Ukraine's got Joseph Conrad. Jordan Peterson should familiarize himself with Tecumseh, Fred Hampton, Frederick Douglass, and, more. But Tecumseh, Fred Hampton, Frederick Douglass, that's a good start right there. And stop being so racist. You should never talk about no tar babies. And learn how to say, black. Black is beautiful, right? I'm black and I'm proud. So black power, black power, baby. Black power, baby. You know that soulless. You know how you feel like you're an empty husk, Jordan Peterson? Fill that empty husk with some black soul. Okay? You need to have your own personal black power revolution. But that's, we're getting a little lofty right now. I'm being too woke, I think. So, we'll just start off with don't be racist. Don't let people go around hurting and murdering and raping people. Dostoevsky is terrible. And Kinsey Jackson is okay. There might be some moral degeneration, but your examples are terrible. Who gives a shit about Ukraine? I give a shit about Ukraine and Canada for that matter. I don't want anybody to invade Canada either. But just to, make a point, I had suggested it earlier. So what? If we just have people wiping people out, that's terrible policy. You shouldn't just allow motherfuckers to do that type of shit. And that the whole world should feel threatened. The whole world should feel threatened if Putin just goes into the Ukraine and wipes them all out. You killed everybody? You didn't leave one person alive? They all didn't do something to you, Putin. So that's some bullshit, man.